It was the kind of evening that had started out like any other, until the message came through. I was sitting in the back of the crowded restaurant, nursing a half-empty glass of wine, trying to look like I belonged. The sound of clinking glasses and distant chatter blurred in the background as I stared down at my phone, scrolling through messages I didn't want to read. I wasn't one for big social events. Nadia, my wife, was. She was the one who could walk into any room and command attention, leaving people laughing and raving about her before she even opened her mouth. Me? I liked the quiet, the simplicity of one-on-one conversation. But tonight, she had insisted that I come to her birthday dinner, which she had turned into some extravagant affair. I'd been trying to ignore how out of place I felt, how out of sync we were. That's when the message popped up. The notification wasn't from Nadia. No, it was from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was some marketing spam or a random wrong number. But when I opened it, the words hit me like a ton of bricks. Hey, it's me. I know this might be a bit strange, but I thought you should know something about Nadia. I'm not the one who should be telling you this, but you need to hear it. Things aren't what they seem. I'll explain more in person if you want. I sat there frozen, my hand gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. My pulse quickened. Nadia had always been the one person in my life I thought I could trust completely. She had her quirks, sure. She was more outgoing than I was, a bit more polished. But she was my wife, the woman I had pledged to spend my life with. We had built this relationship together. What the hell was this message about? What did this stranger mean by things aren't what they seem? I looked up, scanning the room full of people, laughing and talking around me. Nadia was there too, her laughter ringing out above the rest. She seemed happy, maybe even a little too happy. I forced myself to breathe, trying to shake off the creeping unease. I couldn't just ignore this. If something was wrong, I had to know what it was. I tapped the message again. Who is this? Why are you telling me this? I typed quickly, my hands shaking. A few minutes passed, and I was starting to think I had gotten a prank or some kind of bizarre scam text when another message came through. I know you won't believe me at first, but just trust me. When you're ready to hear the truth, I'll be here. I can't stand seeing you like this, pretending everything's fine when I know it isn't. I couldn't take it anymore. My curiosity was eating me alive. I had to confront her. I had to find out what was really going on. But I knew I couldn't just storm up to Nadia and ask her about it. It wasn't like I had any proof, any concrete reason to suspect something. I typed one last message. If you know something, tell me now. This is messing with my head. The reply came quickly, almost too quickly, and it was simple. Look for the signs. You already know them. Just pay attention. That was it. No more. I closed the phone, my stomach in knots. The evening's warm buzz felt colder now, like the room had suddenly turned on me. Nadia was still laughing at the table with her friends, oblivious to the storm that had just started to brew. How could everything seem so normal when something didn't feel right? How could she be so carefree, so perfect, while I was left holding this puzzle I couldn't piece together? I needed answers, but I didn't know where to look or who to trust. This was the beginning of something I hadn't seen coming. And no matter how hard I tried to push the thoughts away, the truth, whatever it was, felt like it was slowly starting to unravel right in front of me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly off. As the night wore on, the unease in my gut only grew stronger. Nadia's laughter echoed around the restaurant, but every time I heard it, I couldn't help but feel a pang of doubt. I had been with her for over 6 years, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about her. But that message, something about it gnawed at me. It was a stranger's words, but they felt too pointed, too deliberate. I tried to push the thought away. Maybe it was just a prank. Maybe I was overthinking things. After all, it wasn't like Nadia had ever given me a reason to doubt her, right? She'd always been loving, caring, the kind of woman who would go out of her way to make sure I felt valued, even if I didn't always fit in with her social crowd. But this text, these words, they suggested a whole different story. A story I didn't know if I was ready to hear. When the dinner finally ended, I expected to feel relief, but instead, my anxiety had only escalated. Nadia and I didn't live far from the restaurant, so the car ride home should have been routine, quiet, with soft music playing in the background, like it always was. But tonight, the air was thick with tension. I kept glancing over at her, but she was staring out the window, seemingly lost in her own thoughts. "Did you have a good time?" I asked, trying to sound casual, trying to mask the storm inside my head. "Yeah, it was great," she said, her voice bright, but not quite matching her eyes. "My friends really enjoyed it." I didn't know if it was just my paranoia kicking in, but she seemed almost too eager to say those words. Like she was trying to convince herself. Or maybe trying to convince me. I wanted to ask her about the message. I wanted to confront her, but something held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I was just being insecure, overreacting? I had no proof, nothing to show her. I had nothing but the word of someone I didn't even know, telling me to pay attention. When we got home, Nadia went straight to the kitchen to grab a drink, and I stayed in the living room, pacing. The silence between us felt heavy, like it was a physical thing pressing down on me. I thought about the words Leah had sent me, how she said I already knew the signs. What did that even mean? Were there things I had missed? Things that were right under my nose? I couldn't get the thought out of my head. If I was going to figure this out, I had to trust my instincts. But how far should I go? What if this was all just in my head? I sat down on the couch, picking up my phone. My thumb hovered over the message from Leah. I didn't know if I was ready to dive deeper into whatever this was, but I had to. I had to know the truth. I needed to hear more, even if it made me sick. I typed out a message. "What do you mean by signs? What exactly are you talking about?" I sent it, then immediately regretted it. What if this was a mistake? What if I didn't want to know the answer? Seconds ticked by, and I felt my heart race as I waited. I knew I couldn't back out now. I had already opened this door. But when the message came through, it wasn't what I expected. You've already seen them. It's in the way she talks about certain people, the way she avoids certain topics when you bring them up. But most importantly, it's in the way she acts when Ryan is around. Pay attention to them next time. Ryan. The name hit me like a slap to the face. I had known Ryan for years, always as one of Nadia's old friends. He was charismatic, confident, everything I wasn't. Over time, I had noticed the way they would linger in conversation a little too long, the way their eyes would meet just a bit too intensely when they thought no one was looking. But I had always brushed it off. What was I supposed to think? They were just friends, right? But now, Leah's words hung in the air like a thick fog. Ryan. She wanted me to pay attention to the way they acted when he was around. What was I supposed to be looking for? How could I have been so blind? Or worse, how could I have been so naive? I sat there, staring at the screen, the weight of the message sinking in. My world, the one I thought I knew so well, was starting to crack open. Maybe Leah was just some well-meaning friend who didn't know what she was talking about. But then again, what if she was right? What if everything I had been ignoring was finally coming into focus? As I sat there, frozen in place, Nadia came back into the room, holding a glass of wine in her hand. She gave me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt a chill run down my spine. "You okay?" she asked, a little too casually. "You seem off." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her everything, to ask her about Ryan, about the message, about the signs I was starting to see, but something in my gut told me to hold back. For now. But deep down, I knew that whatever was happening, whatever I was about to uncover, was just beginning, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next few days after the dinner felt like walking through a fog. It wasn't just the message from Leah that had me on edge. It was the feeling that something in my life, something I had always considered solid, was starting to crumble. Every glance at Nadia made my heart race, and every smile she flashed felt more like a mask than the warm expression I used to love. I couldn't shake the thought that there was something she wasn't telling me. I tried to go about my usual routine, work, errands, and the small tasks that kept me distracted, but nothing felt the same. The noise of everyday life seemed to drown out everything, but deep down, I could still hear Leah's words echoing in my mind. "Look for the signs. You already know them." But what signs? What was I supposed to be looking for? I had been so focused on just getting through life that I hadn't noticed anything unusual. Or had I? The tension in our home grew over the next few days. Nadia was quieter, her usual vibrant energy replaced by something more distant, like a wall had gone up between us. She'd still kiss me goodbye in the mornings, but her touch felt different, almost mechanical. At night, when we lay in bed together, I could feel her turning away just a little more each time. It wasn't anything overt, just a small shift in the way she held herself. I couldn't explain it, but I could feel it. And as much as I wanted to pretend everything was fine, the nagging voice in the back of my head wouldn't let me ignore the feeling that something was off. That's when the first clue came. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was at work, drowning in a pile of paperwork that needed to be finished by the end of the week. My phone buzzed with a text, and when I saw it was from Nadia, I felt a wave of tension rise in my chest. I wasn't sure why I was so nervous. Maybe it was because I had been feeling so disconnected from her recently. But I opened the message anyway. "Can you pick up dinner tonight? I'll be at Ryan's for a bit." The words hit me like a slap. Ryan. She had never asked me to pick up dinner when she was going to Ryan's place. They had hung out together countless times before, but this felt different. Her tone was casual, almost too casual, like it was a regular, everyday occurrence. I stared at the screen, my mind spinning. Why did she need to be at Ryan's? They had been friends for years, sure, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their relationship than I was being told. I typed back quickly, trying to mask the edge in my voice. "I thought we were having dinner together tonight." The reply came almost immediately. "We will, just not tonight. I've got some things to work on with Ryan, but I'll be home later." I tried to convince myself that it was innocent. She had every right to spend time with her friends. But there was something about the way she had phrased it, something so dismissive, like she didn't think I would mind. I tried to ignore the tightness in my chest, the growing unease that something wasn't adding up. I didn't know what to do with the information. Should I confront her now? Should I ask about Ryan? Or should I wait, try to observe and gather more clues? The truth was, I had no idea what to do. I had no proof of anything, no concrete reason to believe she was hiding something from me. Yet the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I had been ignoring, how many signs I had dismissed over the years. That night, I went through the motions of picking up dinner and coming home, but the entire time, I couldn't stop thinking about Nadia and Ryan. When I walked through the door, I expected to find her lounging around, relaxing. Instead, the house felt empty, quiet in a way that was almost unsettling. She wasn't home yet, but there was an eerie silence that hung in the air. I tried to push down the feeling in my gut, but it wouldn't go away. Something had changed, and I didn't know how much longer I could ignore it. Around 9 p.m., Nadia finally came home. She seemed different, almost too cheery. "Hey," she said, her voice light and upbeat. "Thanks for grabbing dinner. I just lost track of time with Ryan. We were working on something, and I didn't realize how late it was." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "That's fine. I figured you were busy." But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to her words. Why did she need to work on something with Ryan? Why had she acted so distant lately? And why did everything feel so off? The night passed in a blur. We ate dinner together, the silence between us thick with unspoken tension. As she went off to bed, I lay awake, my mind racing with questions that I didn't have answers to. I had to know more. I had to find out what was really going on. But how far was I willing to go to uncover the truth? The answer was simple, as far as it took. But I didn't know just how far that would be. And I didn't know what it would cost me when I found out. The next few days felt like an emotional roller coaster, each moment more suffocating than the last. I couldn't stop thinking about the text message Nadia had sent me, about her being at Ryan's, how casual she had been about it. The more I replayed that moment, the more it bothered me. Why hadn't she mentioned anything about working on something with Ryan before? Why was she always so evasive when I asked about their relationship? I decided that if I was going to figure this out, I needed to start paying closer attention. I had to notice the details, the little things I had missed before. Every time she mentioned Ryan, I paid careful attention. I noticed the way she would smile a little too brightly, how her eyes would light up when his name came up in conversation. It wasn't anything overt, but it was enough to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I wasn't imagining it. There was something there, something deeper than just friendship. I kept telling myself that I was being paranoid, but the more I tried to ignore it, the more the unease grew. And then, one evening, it all came crashing down. It started when Nadia got a call while we were having dinner. I could tell it was Ryan before she even said a word. She smiled when she saw his name on the screen, and before I could even think, she had answered the call. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the conversation was so odd. Nadia's tone shifted as soon as she started talking to him. She became softer, almost flirtatious, her voice a little too sweet. My stomach tightened as I listened to her laugh at something Ryan had said, the laughter that wasn't quite as natural as it used to be. It wasn't the laughter of a woman talking to a friend. It was something else. I tried to keep my composure, trying to pretend that everything was fine. But deep down, I could feel the cold pit in my stomach growing. Something was happening, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. When she hung up the phone, I tried to keep my tone light, but I couldn't hide the hurt that was starting to show. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, everything's fine," she said quickly, a little too quickly. She avoided my eyes as she stood up to clear the table, her movements a bit too hurried. "Just a little work stuff with Ryan. Nothing big." I nodded, but my mind was racing. "Work stuff?" I repeated, the words sounding ridiculous even as I said them. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being lied to. I wasn't stupid. I knew there was something she wasn't telling me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smiling at her phone, her soft laugh filling the room. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and soon the questions began to flood my mind. What was going on with Nadia and Ryan? Were they having an affair? Was I just the fool who had been too blind to see it? At around 3 a.m., I found myself staring at my phone. I hadn't meant to do it, but I couldn't stop myself. I had already checked her social media 100 times, looking for any clues, any signs that might confirm my suspicions. But this time, I decided to do something different. I had an idea. I wasn't proud of it, but I knew I had to know the truth. I opened up her messages on her phone. Nadia had always been open with me about everything, except, it seemed, when it came to Ryan. Her conversations with him were private, locked away in a way I had never seen before. I had always trusted her with my phone, my messages, and I never thought she'd hide anything from me. But as I scrolled through her messages, I felt a knot form in my chest. There, right at the top of the conversation, was a thread that made my blood run cold. The messages between Nadia and Ryan weren't just friendly, they were loaded with hints of something much deeper. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you," one of her texts said. And then Ryan replied, "I miss you too. I was thinking about what you said earlier. Maybe we should finally make it happen." My heart dropped into my stomach. Make it happen? What did that mean? Were they talking about an affair? Or was there something else going on that I couldn't understand? I quickly locked the phone, my hands shaking. I knew I had to confront her. I had to know what this meant. But as I sat there, the weight of the message hanging in the air, I felt a part of me start to break. Nadia had always been my rock, my anchor in this chaotic world. But now, everything was uncertain. Nothing felt solid anymore. I couldn't let it go. I needed answers, and I knew I wasn't going to get them unless I confronted her. But how could I even begin to approach her about this? How could I ask her about these messages without sounding like a madman, paranoid, and suspicious? The next day, Nadia seemed off again. She was quieter than usual, her mind somewhere else, even as she moved through the motions of getting ready for the day. I tried to act normal, to pretend everything was okay, but I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. By the time we sat down for dinner, I knew it was time. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to ask her, to confront her about what I had found. My heart was pounding in my chest as I looked at her across the table, my voice barely a whisper. "Nadia, what's going on with you and Ryan?" She looked up from her plate, her face frozen for just a second before she quickly recovered. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a little too casual, her eyes darting away from mine. I took a deep breath, my hands shaking. "I know there's something more going on. I've seen the way you've been acting, and I found the messages. Between you and Ryan. What's really happening, Nadia?" For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Her eyes widened, and I saw the flicker of panic cross her face. She didn't know how to respond. And in that silence, I knew. Something was wrong. Something had been going on behind my back, and the truth was about to come crashing down. She started, but the words wouldn't come. And in that moment, I realized that the life I thought I had with Nadia, the life I had trusted, wasn't what I had believed at all. The truth was darker than I could have ever imagined. The tension in the air was palpable, almost suffocating. I could see the panic in Nadia's eyes as I stared at her across the table, waiting for her to say something, anything, to explain what was happening. But she didn't. She just sat there, frozen, her fork resting limply on the plate, her fingers tapping nervously against the glass of wine she hadn't touched. It felt like hours passed, though it was probably only a few seconds. My mind raced, trying to make sense of everything. The strange behavior, the subtle lies, the messages. I had known her for years, and yet, I was beginning to realize that I didn't know her at all. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what you're talking about," she said. but I could hear the crack in her voice, the tremor she couldn't hide. It was a weak defense, and I knew it. I wasn't stupid. I had seen the signs. And this wasn't just a moment of insecurity on my part. This was real. There was something going on between her and Ryan, and I wasn't going to let her lie to me anymore. I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. Don't lie to me, Nadia. I know what I saw. I saw your messages. I heard the way you talked to him. What's going on between you and Ryan? Is there something I should know? Her face drained of color, and for the first time, I saw her stutter. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My heart pounded in my chest. I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't take back. I didn't know if I wanted to hear the truth, but I knew I had to. I swear it's not what you think, she said, her voice shaking now. Ryan and I have always been close, you know that. He's been going through a tough time lately, and I've been helping him out. That's all. I shook my head. Don't try to make excuses. This isn't about him being tough. I've seen the way you two look at each other. I've heard the way you talk. It's more than just friendship, Nadia, and I deserve the truth. She flinched at my words, like they were physical blows. Her hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles turning white, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was debating whether or not to come clean, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Whatever she had been hiding, it was starting to break through the surface. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said, finally breaking down. It just happened. One night, we were talking, and it felt like everything that had been missing from my life just clicked into place. Ryan gets me in ways you don't, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I'm sorry, but I didn't know how to tell you. The words were like a punch to my gut. I had expected something, but this was worse than I imagined. My mind struggled to keep up with her confession. Nadia, my wife, had fallen for someone else. She had let herself be swept away by Ryan, someone I had trusted, someone I thought was just another one of her harmless friends. So what now? I asked, my voice thick with a mix of hurt and anger. You've been lying to me for who knows how long, and now you're telling me this? Do you think I'm just going to forgive you? Pretend this didn't happen? I didn't want this to happen, she repeated, her voice cracking. I swear, I never meant to hurt you. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't fight what I was feeling. I never wanted to lose you, but now, I don't know what to do. I never meant for it to go this far. I could hear the desperation in her voice, but it did little to soothe the pain that was gnawing at me. She didn't just betray my trust. She had betrayed everything we had built together. Our marriage, our life. I had been blind. I had ignored the signs, and now I was left picking up the pieces. Are you still seeing him? The question left my mouth before I could stop it, and I immediately regretted it. I didn't want to hear the answer, but I needed to know. I needed the full truth, even if it shattered me. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, she whispered. I'm still seeing him. But I swear, I never meant to hurt you. I thought I could balance both of you, but I see now how wrong I was. I don't know how it got this far, but I'm so sorry. I don't want to lose you. The tears started to fall, and I couldn't tell if they were for me, for herself, or for the mess she had created. My head was spinning. My whole world was crashing down, piece by piece. I don't know what to do with this, Nadia, I said, my voice breaking. How am I supposed to fix this? How do we come back from this? She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away before she could touch me. I need space. I need to think, I said, standing up from the table. I can't do this right now. I walked out of the room, leaving her there, crying, and I could hear her sobbing as I moved through the house. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. My heart was broken, my trust shattered. Nadia's betrayal had left me with nothing but questions and a deep, painful uncertainty about the future. I walked out of the house, needing to clear my head. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there, not with everything falling apart around me. I needed to think. I needed to find some way to make sense of all of this, even if it meant accepting a truth that I wasn't ready to face. The cool night air hit me like a slap in the face, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was truly alone. I had always believed that love was something you could fight for, that if you held on tight enough, no matter what, things would work out in the end. But now, standing on the edge of my crumbling marriage, I realized how naive that belief was. The truth hit me like a freight train, and no matter how hard I tried to avoid it, I couldn't escape the reality that was unfolding before me. I walked aimlessly, barely feeling the cold air biting at my skin. My mind was a blur, a jumbled mess of confusion and disbelief. Nadia's confession echoed in my ears. I never meant to hurt you. She hadn't just betrayed me, though. She'd betrayed us, everything we had built together. And it was all slipping through my fingers. How had I missed it? How had I ignored all the subtle signs, the lingering moments that now screamed at me in hindsight? The way Nadia had always been a little too happy to get away from me. The way she would smile at her phone whenever Ryan's name came up. I had told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking, but now I saw how wrong I was. I wandered to the park nearby, a place I used to go when I needed clarity. But now, it just felt empty. The sound of my footsteps was the only thing that filled the silence. And as I sat on a bench, I couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of loss. I didn't want to face the truth. I didn't want to accept that the woman I had trusted more than anyone had betrayed me in the worst way possible. But there was no denying it anymore. I had to confront it, for better or worse. And then my phone buzzed. I didn't want to look at it. I had no desire to hear anything more from Nadia, not yet. But something compelled me to check the message. It was from her. Please don't leave me. I made a huge mistake. I'm so sorry. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. What was there left to say? How could I look her in the eyes again after what she had done? Part of me wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her that we could fix this, that we could somehow repair the shattered pieces of our life. But another part of me, the part that was broken beyond repair, wanted to throw the phone away, walk away from her for good, and never look back. I stared at her message for what felt like an eternity, my thoughts a whirlwind. I didn't know if I was ready to forgive her. I didn't know if I ever could. But at that moment, the reality of our situation settled in. The trust we once shared was gone. The foundation of our marriage had crumbled, and I couldn't just pretend it hadn't happened. I didn't reply to the message. I couldn't. Instead, I put the phone in my pocket and stood up. The night was growing colder, and I needed to clear my head even more. I started walking again, but this time, I had no destination. I just needed to move. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't remember the last time I had slept properly. The guilt and confusion gnawed at me, making it impossible to think clearly. Nadia's calls and messages went unanswered. I knew I was avoiding her, but I wasn't ready to face her again. I wasn't ready to look her in the eyes and pretend like everything was fine when I knew it wasn't. I went to work, but even then, I couldn't focus. I was losing myself, piece by piece. I felt like a stranger in my own life, like everything I had once known had been stripped away, leaving only a hollow shell of what used to be. One evening, as I sat in my car outside the apartment, debating whether to go in, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message from Nadia. It was a number I didn't recognize. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the message. Hey, I think it's time you knew the full story. You need to hear this. It was from Leah, the one person I hadn't heard from in a while. The same Leah who had warned me about Nadia and Ryan. I had almost forgotten about her, but now, as the words from the message hung in the air, I realized this could be the key to understanding everything. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of whether to reach out. But curiosity, no, desperation, pushed me to reply. What's going on, Leah? What do you know? The reply came almost instantly. I think you deserve to know the truth about how deep this really goes. I didn't want to get involved, but now, I can't just stand by and watch you get hurt. My pulse quickened. This was it. The truth, the answers I had been searching for. But a part of me was terrified of what I might hear. What was she going to tell me? I typed back quickly. Tell me everything. There was a long pause before her message came through. Ryan and Nadia have been seeing each other for months. But it's not just about them. There's more. You need to hear the rest from someone else, but I can't be the one to tell you. I'm sorry. The words hit me like a punch in the stomach. Months? This wasn't just a few secret texts or stolen moments. Nadia and Ryan had been involved for months, and I had been completely blind to it. But who was she talking about? Who else was involved in this tangled mess? I felt the world start to spin around me. I had no idea who else was pulling the strings, but I knew one thing for sure. The truth was darker than I could have ever imagined, and I was only just beginning to uncover the lies that had been built around me. The question now was, how far would this go? And how deep did the betrayal really run? I couldn't shake the message from Leah. Her words echoed in my mind, each syllable sinking in deeper than the last. Ryan and Nadia have been seeing each other for months. That was what hit me hardest, the months. This wasn't some fleeting affair or a brief fling that would eventually fade. No, this was something much more calculated, something that had been brewing for far longer than I had realized. But as devastating as that message was, it wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the last sentence. There's more. You need to hear the rest from someone else, but I can't be the one to tell you. I'm sorry. Who else? Who else was involved in this mess? I stared at the screen, feeling a mix of dread and confusion. What did Leah mean? Why couldn't she just tell me the whole story? She had already dropped a bombshell. What was holding her back from giving me the rest of the truth? I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever else I was about to learn, but I needed answers. I needed to know everything. I sat in my car for what felt like an eternity, staring out into the dimly lit street, trying to steady my racing thoughts. My hands were trembling as I typed a message back to Leah. Who else? Who's involved? The response came quickly. It's complicated. I can't say more, but I think you should talk to someone else. He'll explain it all. My heart sank. She was sending me to someone else now? My mind raced through possible people in Nadia's life who might know what was really going on. I didn't have a lot of friends left. Nadia had always been the social one, the one who kept everyone around her while I quietly observed from the sidelines. But then it hit me. There was one person I knew who might have answers. Greg. Greg was one of the few people who had been close to both Nadia and me. He had been one of our mutual friends for years. He knew everything, or so I thought. But did he know what was really going on with Nadia and Ryan? Was he part of this secret world I hadn't seen? I felt a sickening realization settle in my stomach as I pulled up Greg's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button for a long moment before I pressed it. The phone rang twice before Greg picked up. Hey man. Greg's voice sounded normal, too normal. It threw me off. What's up, Greg? I said, my voice tight. I need to talk to you. It's about Nadia and Ryan. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Just a moment, but it was long enough for me to hear the shift in his breathing. Something was off. What about them? Greg asked, his tone now more cautious. I didn't waste any time. Leah told me everything. I know about them. About the affair. She said there's more. Things I don't know. What the hell is going on, Greg? There was a long silence before Greg finally spoke, his voice lower now. I don't think you're ready for this, man. But you need to know the whole truth. It's not just Ryan and Nadia. There's someone else. Someone you wouldn't expect. I felt my chest tighten. Who? Who else is involved? I demanded, my voice shaking now. Greg sighed heavily. It's not just an affair. It's a setup, man. Nadia and Ryan, they've been planning this for months. They've been using you. It's been orchestrated for a long time, and you were the one who was kept in the dark. I felt the ground shift beneath me, as if the entire world was tilting. A setup? What do you mean using me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I could feel the blood drain from my face. Greg hesitated, clearly trying to find the right words. They wanted to take everything from you. The house, your job, everything. This wasn't just about love, man. This was about control. Ryan has been plotting it with Nadia for months. They've been planning to steal from you in ways you wouldn't believe. I don't even think Nadia knew how deep Ryan was into this, but now, it's all coming to a head. The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just an affair, it was a conspiracy. I had been played, and I hadn't even realized it. The rage that bubbled up inside me was like nothing I had ever felt before. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and betrayal. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? I managed to choke out, the anger rising in my chest. Why would you let me walk into this blind? I didn't know how to tell you, man, Greg said, his voice pained. Nadia is my friend too, and I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. But after a while, it became obvious. I couldn't just sit back and watch you lose everything. I'm sorry, but I didn't know how to say it. I took a shaky breath. The man I thought I had known, Nadia, my wife, the woman I had trusted with my life, had been playing me. She had been involved in something much darker than I could ever have imagined. My entire world was crumbling before me, and I had no idea how to stop it. Where is she? I asked suddenly, my voice raw with emotion. Where is Nadia right now? Greg was quiet for a moment before replying. I don't know exactly, but I know she's meeting with Ryan tonight. She's probably at his place now. The world seemed to spin faster as the weight of Greg's words hit me. Nadia wasn't just having an affair. She was working with Ryan to destroy everything I had worked for. They had been plotting it all along, and I was the last to know. I felt like a fool, a puppet who had been played from the very beginning. I ended the call abruptly, my hands shaking as I sat there, my thoughts spinning. I had to confront them. I had to know the truth, once and for all. But as I stood up, ready to go, another message flashed on my phone screen. It was from Nadia. Please, I need to talk to you. I've made a huge mistake. Can you come to my apartment tonight? I stared at the message for a long time, my pulse racing. Was this it? Was she finally going to tell me the truth? Or was this just another manipulation, another part of the game she had been playing all along? I didn't know if I could trust her anymore. But one thing was certain, this was far from over. The truth was out there, and I wasn't going to stop until I had all the answers. No matter what it cost me. The night felt colder as I stood there, staring at the message from Nadia. My heart was pounding in my chest, torn between the urge to confront her and the overwhelming desire to protect myself from further betrayal. I knew that I was standing at a crossroads. What I chose to do next would define everything. For a long time, I just stood there, paralyzed, my mind racing. Nadia had already done enough to shatter my trust. But there was a part of me, a stubborn part, that wanted to believe in the woman I had married. I couldn't just throw everything away without understanding why, without hearing her side. I took a deep breath, then typed back, I'll be there in 20 minutes. The drive to her apartment felt like an eternity. Every second that passed seemed to weigh heavier than the last, and my mind replayed every moment, every clue, every word. I had come so far, uncovered so many secrets, but I still didn't have the full picture. Nadia's message, so simple, yet so loaded, felt like a last attempt at redemption, but could I trust her? Could I even trust myself after everything that had happened? I arrived at her apartment, the parking lot eerily quiet, the only sounds the soft hum of the streetlights. When I knocked on the door, my heart was in my throat. Nadia opened the door almost immediately, her eyes red and puffy, as if she had been crying for hours. But there was something different in the way she looked at me, something raw, something vulnerable. For the first time in weeks, I didn't see the woman who had been hiding behind her lies. I saw the woman I had married, the one I had fallen in love with. I'm so sorry, she whispered before I could say a word, stepping aside so I could enter. I never meant for any of this to happen. I've made terrible mistakes, and I don't know how to make it right. But I'm asking for a chance. A real chance to fix everything. I stepped inside, my emotions still in turmoil. I didn't know what to say. The anger, the betrayal, the hurt. Everything was still there, bubbling beneath the surface. But there was something in her voice that softened me, something that told me this wasn't just about words. It was about her willingness to change, to admit the truth. I've been so stupid, Nadia continued, her voice shaking. When I first met Ryan, I didn't see it for what it was. I thought I could keep both worlds separate. But it got out of hand. I was scared, and I didn't know how to stop. When you found out, I realized I was about to lose everything. The man I love, the life we built together. I thought I could lie my way out of it, but I can't. I'm not asking for forgiveness, but I'm begging you to listen. The silence between us was heavy, filled with the weight of everything we had gone through. But then, something shifted inside me. The anger, the disbelief, the fear, they were all still there. But in that moment, I realized that if I truly wanted peace, I had to hear her out. I had to let her explain herself fully, without interruption, without holding on to the past. Okay, I said quietly, sitting down on the couch. Tell me everything. And she did. For hours, she poured out the full story. The lies, the manipulation, the secret meetings, the things she had kept hidden. But in the midst of it all, there was something I hadn't expected. The guilt, the remorse, the realization that she had hurt me beyond measure. It wasn't an excuse for what she had done, but it was the truth. And in that truth, I could hear the woman I had fallen in love with again. The woman who was fighting to come back from the mess she had made. I love you, she said at the end, her voice raw. I made the biggest mistake of my life, but I swear to you, I want to fix it. I don't want to lose you. I didn't know how to respond. I had never been faced with something like this before, this raw honesty. Part of me wanted to walk away, to end it, to close the door and never look back. But another part of me, the part that had always believed in second chances, in redemption, told me that this wasn't the end. This could be the beginning of something new. I don't know if I can forgive you right away, I said, my voice trembling. But I want to try. I want to rebuild what we had, even if it takes time. I don't want to give up on us. Nadia's face softened, a mixture of relief and hope flooding her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I'll show you every day how much you mean to me. We sat there in silence, the weight of our past mistakes hanging between us. But for the first time in weeks, there was a flicker of hope. A chance for healing. A chance to move forward, together. I didn't know what the future would hold, but in that moment, I realized that maybe, just maybe, we could make it through this. Maybe we could rebuild our trust, one step at a time. The road wouldn't be easy, but the first step, just admitting the truth, was a start. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't alone in the battle to fix what had been broken. We both had a long way to go, but we were willing to fight for it. And that was all that mattered. For the first time in months, I finally allowed myself to believe in the possibility of a new beginning.